I have another creepy story about Epping Forest. This one comes from a girl who was a maid of honour a few years ago. The place where the bestie was getting married is like a stately home, kind of like one of those big countryside homes. The grounds were these stables that have been converted into like hotel rooms where guests could stay. But because they're travelling from so far, they decide that they're going to rent one of these rooms a few days before so that they can be there nice and early, because she's going to do her friend's makeup in the morning. So it's like going to be early doors. The wedding venue, they normally didn't let guests stay there unless there was a wedding there. Like you had to be in the wedding party of that night to stay there. But it just so happened that they didn't have a wedding the night before, and the people who lived there full time, they agreed that they could have that room. So there's no other guests, it's just them. They arrive quite late the night before and it's a little bit eerie. The people, they just leave a key out. They say, help yourself, we're all going to be asleep by then. And they're like, no problem, we won't disturb you. First thing they notice is that it's very badly lit. Like there's not even a light outside their room. And they do not have the best night's sleep on the first night. So they are constantly woken up by these different noises outside from what they think are animals. They hear screaming, they hear what seems to be crying. Every time they get up and they look out the window, there's no one there. But it's so dark, they couldn't see anything, even if there was. When she wakes up in the morning, her boyfriend has pushed the sofa in the room up against the door because he was so convinced that he could hear somebody wiggling their lock. Alarm is set for 5 a.m. the next morning, but just before the alarm goes off, they hear like a tapping at the window. And when they open their blinds, there's a man standing there and he's doing something with the window. It almost looks like he's cleaning it. Them are looking at each other like, this is odd, how disrespectful. It's 5 in the morning. Okay, we understand that there's not really supposed to be people staying here at this time, but it just seems a bit strange to have somebody come and clean the windows so early. Not only that, the man himself, he's rude. You would think if a member of staff came to your window and woke you up and they've opened their blinds to have a look at you, you'd kind of do one of these, like, sorry, I've woken you up, didn't realise you were in there, something like that. This man doesn't do any of that. He looks dead into their eyes in the most creepy way that just makes both of their blood run cold. They immediately both jump back and they shut those curtains as quickly as they open them. When the wedding party finally arrive and the makeup starts to get going, everyone wants to know how her first night was, and she doesn't want to seem ungrateful or like she's putting down this wedding venue. And apart from this one incident, the staff have gone above and beyond, and they're really kind and really accommodating. The wedding goes ahead without a hitch. They have a wonderful, beautiful wedding. But the next morning, when everybody wakes up with a hangover and goes to eat their breakfast together, a few of the members of the bridal party complain of having that same man at their window. And in fact, one of the groomsmen, who had actually decided to stay in his car because he'd had a drink and he didn't book a room, said that he was awoken by a strange man tapping on his window. He had just assumed that it was a member of staff and that he was going to say you can't sleep here, because he had already been warned that he couldn't sleep in his car. So he just stayed asleep, pretended to be asleep. He said he got the scare of his life when this man actually tried to get in to his car and get into him. When the bride and groom hear about this guy that has woken several of their friends and family up, they decide to just politely bring it up to the venue. The wedding venue email back and say they're going to investigate the situation. A few weeks later, they do report back to the bride and groom, and they say they have actually reported this incident to the police because they have no record of a member of staff being present at that time. And so they're very sorry, but they think maybe an outsider was able to get into their venue that night. This is the creepy bit. So they kept open communication between them and their wedding planner. And the wedding planner tells them that after they stay there and they logged that little complaint, that she was speaking to the owner. The owner's family had owned that house since like the late 70s. He'd lived there practically all of his life. And that his own mum had had the very same experience with a man who sounded like he matched that description. He had always thought that it was like a paranormal apparition, spirit, something like that, because way back in the 1800s, just after the house was first built, there had actually been a serial killer who had broken into the grounds of the house, had killed a boy and a girl who worked in the stable. And the tools that he used were just things that he had found in the stable itself. And so potentially what the maid of honour saw in his hand was in fact a tool and not something that he was cleaning the windows with.
Nope.